And of course, I forgot to get a water. Everybody, welcome back. Here is a clip from the Sean Ryan show. It is a SEAL Team 6 operator talking about the deadliest moments of war. So let's check it out.
Turret gunner, his gun got completely sheared off the barrel, and a chunk of the barrel went through Jason Lewis's chest. And so one of my first experiences doing this medevac was assessing what was going on, and that was hard seeing those guys. So Bobby, the combat cameraman, was still alive essentially, but he was bent over because his face was just splayed open. And then he clips in and sits on the wing.
And he sat on the wing?
Yeah. Some really hard things happened on that deployment too. We lost Jason Lewis in an IED. I was the JTAC for that. I performed the medevac. That actually ties into a story that I meant to talk about with this helo pilot. Dude, just one of the most incredible heroes of anything I've experienced in my operating. That night.
You didn't tell us where you deployed to.
Yeah, so this was Baghdad and all around. So we were almost exclusively operating in Sadr City. Really hairy, nightly operations every night, sometimes 6 nights a week. And then occasionally we'd go out to other areas like Bakaba or Alamara for operations, but we were pretty focused on that during that deployment.
What kind of operations?
Counter-terrorist operations, just going out after...
DAs, sniper work?
All DAs. So my first deployment was just purely DAs every night. We had the luxury of being able to utilize the 160th Helo Squadron with some of the dev group guys that were down the street for Task Force 17. They kind of opened it up to the teams because there was just so many bad guys in the networks and so much to do. I think that they kind of trusted the teams, the East Coast teams at that time to conduct DAs, using their assets and stuff for that deployment. So it was it was a special deployment for us. Yeah.
Let's just talk about what it was like for you on your first kinetic operation.
Kinetic being a JTAC or kinetic shooting? Just any kinetic.
Whichever came first.
Yeah, so the very first night was kinetic. We went out on our first op after turning over, and at that point I was in the back of a Humvee. I'm an assaulter, and we go out for a guy, and I end up switching into the driver's seat after the op. So the op was pretty quiet, but there's always shooting on the way in and the way out, just both for the bad guys to sort of recce where we're at. So they would, shoot up in the air just to kind of identify where we're at in the town, right, to each other. So that was an experience oh, shoot, they're not shooting at us, but they are, they're shooting. Mm-hmm. And it's the first time sort of hearing it. So, yeah, and that target was pretty quiet, but on the way out, we for sure caught some shots off of roof towards the Humvees and stuff, and we're like, oh, shit, And then by the third night, on our way in, we're driving really fast, and on those infills, there's a couple IEDs going off that just miss. And I'm like, oh, shit. So now, every time we're driving, I'm looking at trash, I'm looking at everything, going man, any of this shit can explode at any time. You're just kind of sitting in there going let's fucking get there. Hopefully we don't blow up. And it's just a really strange feeling as a new guy on my first, when we land that plane to get on deployment, you come off that airplane, that air is just so pungent, filled with just smoke and whatever the smells are, and the humidity of it, the heat of it. And you're like, wow, I'm in a whole different world right now, And so that only took 2-3 missions to just kind of get used to that, kind of a little bit of a shock, to go, all right, we're in it, you know? Because when you're going through training and all that, you're just visualizing it, you're just imagining it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get there and you're in it and you're like, wow, okay, I'm in it. Just, there's nothing else to do. Just try to focus on what you're doing, you know?
So I go to the shooting range a lot. I was there today, and I can't imagine being down at the side where the bullets are going. Like those whizzing over your head, and no. Like, that's crazy to me.
So it was only a matter of time before we got hit by an ID. I think collectively we had a little bit of an ego as a team, like, oh, hey, these motherfuckers keep missing. They can't get us. A little bit of arrogance going on, you know. And that got shut down real quick when we caught a flat tire on the way back one night. And, you know, instead of, you can go back and forth with the man in the arena stuff and armchair quarterbacking, but we, instead of pulling off, holding security and trying to fix that thing, we just rolled with it, but we were so slow. We're rolling so slow, so the vehicle in front of me made a right turn onto one of the main streets to get back to, you know, the little sort of highway going back, you know, out of Solder City. And an EFP blew up, an explosively formed penetrator copper plate, which they had started using recently. It sort of blasts this shaped charge towards you, so it's not like a blast from underneath like a traditional IED, but it forms these, the copper breaks up and it's so hot they turn into little plasma bullets, and it just melts through everything like Swiss cheese, you know, even vehicle armor and people. So they caught that. 4 guys in the back of the Humvee got killed, including Jason Lewis, was a SEAL. Ended up naming Camp Lewis after him. Combat cameraman and, 3 guys. Combat cameraman and a TSE guy, technical surveillance guy. And then 1 Terp was back there, but he survived everything. So the turret gunner, his gun got completely sheared off the barrel, and a chunk of the barrel, I think, went essentially either a piece of plasma or that chunk went through Jason Lewis's chest. And so one of my first experiences doing this medevac was assessing what was going on, and that was hard seeing those guys. So Bobby, the combat cameraman, was still alive essentially, but he was bent over because his face was just splayed open with blood coming out and him trying to breathe. So when we eventually got the medevac, he didn't make it on the 20 or 25 minute ride back to BIOP, to the medics on our medevac. So those were him and those guys were the first to go on the first load, because the driver of that vehicle got a piece of that plasma lodged into his leg, like right onto a nerve, and I think that it cauterized the nerve, so his leg actually survived for a while after that. But he, badass, just continued to drive. He didn't swap out. He said, fuck it, I'm driving, right? So we get off the X. I'm dropping, 40 mics and 105s on bad guys shooting at us from rooftops on our way out. And I start working a medevac. We've got 2 Apaches overhead. We get to this little Marine outpost in the middle of Solder City that just like, dude, I can't even imagine their experience daily. Just getting rockets and just all kinds of shit at them. And they're just hunkered down, manning this damn post, right? And we get inside of that. And my platoon chief's calling out what's going on. Got Nick Check up in my vehicle navigating us, to get there, with the down vehicle sort of hobbling, right? And we get in there, everybody gets out. We get the guys laid out. I'm getting a medevac ready. It lands, gets those guys, and I'm looking. I see, I can see Jason Lewis there, and I can see the dirt on the other side of his chest, right? Just this big hole.
Supposed to be making a reaction video, but I'm kind of speechless. You can tell how difficult it is for him to be talking about this. So I will just let him speak and be quiet for probably the rest of the video.
And I'm just trying my best to get a 9-line going. Like, hey, we've got 2 that are done and 1 guy still alive, critical, right? So he's the priority, and the second bird gets the other 2 guys. Now, the incredible thing is we still got 1 guy fucked up with that thing lodged in his leg, and I'm like, we're so nervous that, like, if it moves and he bleeds out of the artery, So trying to keep him stable, and then we got to wait for the birds, right? And we're taking fire, we're shooting, we got fucking RPGs people are seeing. And so there's a fight going on while we're doing this medevac. So these 2 Apaches come over, and I just remember thinking, fuck, I don't know if this is doable or anything, but I start calling them, like, hey guys, we got 1 guy who needs to get out of here before this thing, you might save his leg and his life, right? Can you guys, and I just remember my platoon chief was like super into helicopters. So he always said, like, hey, study them. They might have capabilities you don't think of often. So I said, hey, what are the chances you guys can get the co-pilot out on the wing to clip in and get him inside in the seat and medevac him to BIOP right now? And they were like,
Apache?
Yeah, an Apache. And they're like, oh shit, hey, we could do that. So I'm like, all right, cool. We're gonna try to call out shit if we see anything, like one of you guys, do a tight circle so you can fucking put guns on anybody while the other one's landing, right? And we got an AC-132. And let's do this. So start getting it ready. And they go, hey, we need a second to go call this and get an approval. So he's like, okay, cool, I'm waiting. He goes off. A few seconds later, comes back on the horn. He's like, they're saying we can't. They're saying we can't do it. And I'm like, fuck, okay. So a few more seconds goes by. He comes back on the horn, calls me, hey, fuck it, we're going to do it. I was like, okay, all right, let's do it. So we do it. The first attempt goes bad because somebody calls out an RPG, so they come down, RPG, and they peel off. I'm like, fuck, all right, it was a false alarm. Somebody thought there was an RPG because there had been some flying around. So cool, come back around. They come back around, they get down, they do it, they get him in there, and they fly him back.
Holy shit, are you...
And they save his leg and his life.
So they fucking land, open the hatch, the co-pilot gets out, this dude climbs in there with some shit stuck in his leg.
And then he clips in and sits on the wing.
And he sat on the wing?
Yeah.
Do you have any pictures of this video? Anything?
No, and actually probably should go back and look. I don't even know if there's a step there, like there, like a little bird or anything. I think he just sat on the fucking wing.
Whoa.
Yeah, and so I wish I kept in touch with these guys. I didn't, if they're out there. But what happened was he got reprimanded after that for disobeying the order, right? Insubordination. So now we're like, hey, they call us. We go through the rest of the next couple nights because the next night we got to stay there and we got to get all these trucks back. So we leave. We're going to leave the next day. Snipers are making sure our route is clear. So we're doing watches, making sure nobody's putting down IEDs. There was actually a couple guys. I can't remember if they got shot or not or engaged, but we get back safe. You can imagine during watch, we're all down there. We just lost all these guys. It was one of the more difficult moments, looking at each other's faces, trying to figure out what we're supposed to be doing, how we're supposed to be feeling, and really just like sitting there, waiting. So snipers are doing Overwatch. Gets quiet. We get out of there. The next night we get home. Go into the talk and find out these guys are getting reprimanded. So we're like, God damn it, dude, that sucks, you know? I think some of our leadership probably did some work on that. I'm not sure. But what ended up happening was somebody on their end of their chain of command said, what the fuck? These guys are heroes, right? And these big awards, you got a silver star for it.
Nice.
So in these big awards, you end up getting a silver star, from what I understand.
Riding on the wing of an Apache out of battles, that's got to be like riding a fucking unicorn with wings out of battle.
Yeah,
Like,
it's pretty
what?
badass.
No matter where you're watching